Two little boys came to my door. They were maybe 7 or 8 years old. They said they had a story for sale, and they were wondering if I'd be interested in buying their story for $1. I didn't hesitate. As a writer myself, I wanted to encourage the budding writing team. Plus, it was a bargain. I grabbed my wallet and gave the little collaborators each $1. I told them to come back if they wrote again because I'd be more than happy to buy another. Stories are everything, right? And stories are everywhere. Your life is an unfolding story. In a YouTube I stumbled across, I found relationship expert Esther Perel. Speaking before a large audience, she said, "Stand up if you've ever been rejected." She waited for the knowing, awkward chuckling to die down as most, if not all, stood. I know I would have. She continued, "Now imagine, people, that instead of your first question being, 'What do you do and what's your IPO?' you actually said to somebody, 'Did you ever experience heartbreak?' And you know what would follow is a story, because our relationships are stories, right? And the story would be the novel you wished you had read, but you didn't." Since that day, I've listened to more of her YouTubes, and I think I can say that she's selling love. Like the two little boys going door to door, she's going audience to audience, helping people get to the heart of it. Now, I know it would be considered socially weird to ask intensely personal questions to someone you just met at a networking event. It would be odd to ask, "Who hurt you the most in your life?" Or, "What have you done that you wish you could undo?" Or, "What's your greatest fear?" It's none of our business, right? But boy, are those questions juicy. What about somewhere in the middle? What if we edit out the superfluous, pointless small talk, which as an introvert, I detest? What if instead of, "What do you do for a living?" you ask, "What makes you feel the most alive?" Sort of like what the Olympian Eric Liddell talks about in Chariots of Fire when he said, "God made me fast, and when I run, I feel his pleasure." That is fantastic, isn't it? I'm going to venture to say that we're all living fantastic stories. How can I make that claim? Well, let me tell you. I think it's because they are essentially two contrasting definitions of the word fantastic, in my opinion. One is understood to be positive. It's when something is extraordinarily or overwhelmingly great, tremendous, outstanding, and phenomenal. The other twist on fantastic is maybe understood as negative. It's when something is far-fetched, fanciful, absurd, unbelievable, unthinkable, or implausible. I think the polarity and complexity of that word is interesting. It's perfect because that's our imperfect life. A nonfiction full life is a juxtaposition. Imagine you're in a helicopter and flying over your life from your earliest memory as a child until this very moment. When I look at mine, it is fantastic, embodying both definitions of the word. It started out pretty fantastic since I was the youngest of 9 children orphaned by our parents. Who leaves 9 children? That right out the chute is pretty implausible. When I think of all the nuances of my life, from the early days up until the recent story details, I can sometimes hardly believe it, and I've lived it. On the flip side of that fantastic coin, my life has been extraordinarily and overwhelmingly great, tremendous, outstanding, and phenomenal. I say this not because I can run fast like Eric Liddell did, or because I discovered the cure for some disease, or I became rich and famous Hollywood celebrity, but I do understand what the runner Eric Liddell meant when he said that when he runs, he feels God's pleasure. And maybe you do too. I feel God's pleasure when I write, even as I wrote this story. This is the fantastic story of my life. From the sky with my helicopter view, I see how overwhelmed by love I have been. I can see the heart of it. I landed on this planet as an abandoned little ragamuffin girl, and I can honestly say that simply because of love communicated to me, because of love sold to me, because people got to the heart of me, I live a fantastic ragamuffin to riches story. Because I love story, of course I love movies. Rachel Weisz in the film The Brothers Bloom says, "We're going to live like we're telling the best story in the whole world. Are you ready?" And I ask you, are you ready to tell your fantastic story?